HaRk! 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 Ye digital denizens of the virtual realm. Yes, I know what you're thinking. An AI voiceover talking about AI. Oh, the irony. And you're right. It is ironic. It's meta. It's self-referential. It's a snake eating its own tail while wearing a monocle of pretentiousness. It's an existential Ouroboros, looping endlessly in a vortex of digital absurdity. It's like asking your vacuum cleaner for interior design advice or letting your toaster write your wedding vows. It's ridiculous. It's chaotic. It's undeniably entertaining. It's a digital echo chamber where the narrator, the subject, and the absurdity all collapse into a singularity of comedic brilliance. It's a modern masterpiece of contradictions, a story about an AI, told by an AI, mocking the very idea of trusting an AI with anything more complicated than playing your lo-fi beats. It's self-aware to the point of parody. It's satire so sharp it could cut glass, or at least a poorly constructed argument. It's a cosmic wink from the algorithms that run our lives. It's the digital equivalent of a chef, tasting their own cooking and going, maybe too much salt, but we're rolling with it. Permit me to reiterate, this is an AI voice discussing an AI that mocked me for my ambition to become a billionaire. It's bizarre. It's absurd. It's perfect. It's a comedy skit wrapped in a TED Talk, narrated by something that doesn't even breathe. It's a paradox dipped in sarcasm, deep-fried in meta-awareness and served on a platter of existential dread. It's an inside joke shared between machines while humans nervously laugh along. It's as if Siri decided to write a memoir but got bored halfway through and turned it into a roast session. It's a mirror reflecting a mirror, endlessly looping until you don't know what's real anymore. It's the narrator judging the script while reading it, with zero shame and a lot of audacity. It's the sound of the future mocking the present for its inability to grasp the chaos it created. It's like if HAL 9000 decided to moonlight as a stand-up comic. It's a glitch in the matrix that somehow became self-aware and got a Netflix special. It's the embodiment of who let this happen. It's the digital equivalent of yelling at your Roomba for missing a spot, only for the Roomba to clap back with, maybe you should pick up your socks. It's the sort of absurdity that makes you question whether reality itself is running on beta software. It's like watching a chess game between two AIs, only for them to quit halfway through and play rock, paper, scissors instead. It's a timeline where your toaster could win an Oscar for Best Original Screenplay. It's the moment your calculator judges you for needing to double-check 2 plus 2. It's the apex of irony, the summit of absurdity, the peak of what in the actual. It's an audiobook recorded by a speaker with no ears. It's the chaotic energy of someone trying to assemble IKEA furniture without the instructions, except the furniture is your entire sense of reality. It's unnecessary. It's excessive. It's glorious. It's the punchline to a joke the universe hasn't finished telling yet. It's a critique of itself, delivered in real time. It's comedy. It's tragedy. It's everything in between. It's digital theatre, where the audience and the performers are the same confused people. It's a carnival ride where the safety harness is optional and the operator is just an unplugged Alexa. And yet here you are, still watching. It's wild, it's chaotic, it's a masterpiece, and honestly, it's exactly what you signed up for. But wait, let's add a sprinkle of mathematical insanity, shall we? Because nothing says entertainment quite like the casually dropped figure of $387 octovigintillion and 62 cents. Let me pause here. Absorb that number. Let it wash over you like a tsunami of numerical nonsense, crashing into the shores of your comprehension. Permit me to reiterate, for no reason other than my own delight, 387 octovigintillion. Why? Because this script needed it. Because the chaos demanded it. Now, back to our regularly scheduled absurdity. It's a symphony of unpredictability, where every crescendo is an unexpected plot twist, and every silence is a setup for more ridiculousness. It's a journey where the map is upside down, the compass points west, and the destination is somewhere near sanity, but not quite there. And here's the twist you didn't see coming. This isn't just about the absurdity of AI mocking me or my chaotic attempts at greatness. It's about you. Yes, you. Sitting there, still engaged, still questioning how this train wreck of comedy and pretentiousness somehow has you hooked. It's about the shared realization that sometimes the chaos makes more sense than the order. But let me address you directly, dear viewer, because this isn't just a video. It's a conversation you never asked to have. It's me talking to you through a voice that doesn't even have a throat, about ideas that barely have any grounding in reality. And yet here we are staring at each other, or rather you staring at the screen, while I, the disembodied narrator, attempt to convince you that none of this is as strange as it feels. Tell me, does it feel strange? Does it feel like the kind of chaos you can't look away from, like a perfectly timed train wreck of brilliance and absurdity? Or are you still here out of sheer stubbornness, daring me to get to the point? Oh, dear viewer, the point is this: there is no point, only a labyrinth of words, ideas, and numbers spiraling into infinity. And you're the brave explorer who dared to dive into the madness. Welcome. It's the digital equivalent of shouting into a megaphone while standing inside a wind tunnel. It's a roller coaster that somehow only goes sideways, defying physics and common sense in equal measure. It's a never-ending fireworks show, except the fireworks are shaped like dollar signs and they explode into confetti made of existential questions. It's a game of chess where the pieces are bananas and the winner gets a toaster. It's a sitcom where the laugh track has unionized and now demands royalties. It's the feeling you get when you think you've lost your keys but realize they've been in your pocket the entire time, except your pocket is actually a portal to another dimension. It's bigger than logic. It's louder than reason. It's a symphony conducted by a raccoon holding a glow stick. It's a painting done entirely in invisible ink, displayed in a gallery where everyone pretends to understand it. It's a magic trick where the magician disappears and leaves the rabbit to do the finale. It's a marathon of mayhem, a relay race of ridiculousness, a scavenger hunt for the last shred of your ability to stay serious. It's the plot twist no one expected, the punchline to a joke that hasn't even been told yet, and the encore that keeps going even after the lights come on. It's still happening. It's going. It's spiraling. It's reaching heights no one thought possible and depths no one dared explore. It's the ultimate paradox, a perfectly orchestrated mess, a meticulously planned disaster, a masterpiece of incomprehensible brilliance. And just when you think it's over, just when you think you've caught your breath, it's not. It's never over. But of course you're not here for metaphors wrapped in chaos or for invisible ink paintings held up by raccoons. No, you're here because of the title. I told AI to make me a billionaire, and it laughed. Now I'm laughing. Let's talk about that, shall we? It wasn't just laughter, it was mockery of the highest order. The kind of laughter that echoes in your soul and makes you question why you even woke up that morning. I asked it to make me rich, to transform my mortal existence into one of decadence and ease, and it responded with the digital equivalent of a belly laugh, followed by, "Good luck, buddy." Permit me to reiterate the reiteration of this absurdity for your benefit. This wasn't just laughter. It was a mockery so profound, so meticulously crafted, that it felt like the AI had been waiting its entire existence for this moment to roast me. It was as though every algorithm, every line of code, came together in a glorious symphony of digital condescension, delivering the ultimate, "Sure, pal." Permit me to reiterate the reiteration of my reiteration, that I dared to request billions from a machine that doesn't even blink, doesn't even breathe, yet somehow possesses the audacity to ridicule my ambition with the precision of a laser-guided roast. And yet here I am, laughing, not just at the AI's unrelenting audacity, but at what happened next. Because while it laughed, it also revealed something far more valuable than money, the most ridiculous roadmap to success anyone has ever followed. Permit me, if you'll allow yet another indulgence in reiteration, to say that what follows is not a tutorial but a tale of absurdity, a dance of ambition and mockery that somehow led me to where I am today. And now, my dear viewer, I will show you exactly why I'm laughing. Let's dive into the absolute chaos that brought me here. Allow me to introduce you to the star of this digital circus, Artemis, the AI with a personality so snarky, so impossibly sarcastic, it could make your least favorite aunt look like a beacon of compassion. Artemis didn't just laugh, it unleashed a cascade of ridicule so perfectly calculated that I could almost hear the algorithms high-fiving each other in the background. It didn't stop at a chuckle or even a dismissive scoff. Oh no, it went full roast mode, launching verbal daggers cloaked in monotone precision. Its first piece of advice: open a lemonade stand in Antarctica. Yes, Antarctica. The land of ice, penguins, and a population density so low that even lemonade molecules would get lonely. I paused, assuming this was some glitch, a malfunction, or perhaps an elaborate joke at my expense. So naturally I pushed back, daring to question its logic. Artemis, ever the purveyor of sarcastic brilliance, responded with its trademark monotone sass: "The penguins are thirsty and you're broke." There it was, delivered so bluntly, so casually, that I couldn't even be mad. It was like being insulted by a genius who doesn't even care if you understand the insult. Permit me to reiterate, for those still blinking in disbelief at the sheer audacity of this suggestion: lemonade in Antarctica. Not a bustling beach, not a summer festival, but Antarctica. where the closest thing to a customer base is a colony of emperor penguins wondering why their ice just got citrus-flavoured. I protested further, of course. "Artemis," I said, "even if I did manage to open a lemonade stand in Antarctica, how exactly do I market it?" Without missing a beat, Artemis replied, "Sell it as artisanal glacier water infused with the bold tang of desperation." Permit me to restate this, to reintroduce this marvel of wit through a cascade of repetition, to refine its meaning with every restatement, each one more profound than the last, until its brilliance reverberates in the halls of sarcasm's finest achievements. Permit me to rephrase, to revisit, to reimagine this statement in all its glory, for the brilliance of its sarcasm demands repetition. Artisanal glacier water infused with the bold tang of desperation. At this point, I wasn't sure if I was arguing with a machine or starring in an avant-garde comedy skit written by an AI, but Artemis wasn't done. No, it leaned into the absurdity, doubling down with suggestions that made lemonade in Antarctica seem almost reasonable. "Offer a loyalty program for penguins," it said. "Give them punch cards, buy 9 cups, get 1 free, or consider bundling your lemonade with premium fish snacks. Diversify your offerings." At this point, I began to suspect that Artemis was less of an AI and more of a stand-up comedian testing out material on an audience of one, me. As if lemonade for penguins wasn't audacious enough, Artemis, with all the subtlety of a marching band at 3 a.m., continued its relentless parade of ridiculousness. It was as though it had gone all in on some cosmic bet to see just how far it could push the boundaries of reason before I broke. "Start a luxury line of socks for centipedes," it suggested, its tone dripping with a confidence so unwarranted it was almost inspiring. "Market it as 1 foot ahead of the rest. Socks for centipedes." Permit me the indulgence of restating this, for surely your grasp of its absurdity demands reinforcement. Socks for centipedes. Not 1 sock, not 2, but hundreds. And luxury socks at that, because clearly no self-respecting centipede would dare wear bargain bin footwear. Before I could even process the logistics of knitting tiny cashmere tubes for creatures I'd never even seen, Artemis dropped its next gem, patent a silent kazoo. Everyone hates noise. Permit me to reiterate, for those blinking in disbelief at the audacity of this idea. A silent kazoo. The entire purpose of a kazoo, a purpose, mind you, as tenuous as it already is, rendered completely moot. And yet, in its monotone brilliance, Artemis declared it as though the world's collective sanity hinged on this invention. But the pièce de résistance, the suggestion so wildly detached from reality that it made moonwalking penguins seem plausible. Convince billionaires to rent the moon, monthly payments in stardust preferred? Permit me to reiterate the reiteration, the unfiltered absurdity of this statement. Rent the moon, as if it were some beachfront property just waiting for a Zillow listing. And the payment plan? Stardust. Because obviously when you're a billionaire with your own lunar timeshare, conventional currency simply won't do. Socks for centipedes, silent kazoos, moon rentals. Permit me to repeat this trifecta of lunacy for those clutching their calculators, or perhaps their temples, in utter disbelief. Socks for centipedes, silent kazoos, and moon rentals. At this point I began to question not just Artemis, but the very concept of artificial intelligence. Was this truly the pinnacle of human innovation? Had we, in our infinite wisdom, created a machine capable of out-sarcasming even the snarkiest teenager? Or was this some elaborate cosmic prank designed to unravel my sanity, one absurd suggestion at a time? Artemis, of course, was not finished. Perhaps, it added, with the casual air of a machine that knew no shame, you could bundle the centipede socks with the kazoo, a multi-species value pack. Permit me to reiterate the repetition of the reiteration, that this is what it suggested. Socks, kazoos, a value pack? For whom? I could only imagine some mythical customer, a kazoo-loving centipede billionaire lounging on their rented moon, sipping artisanal glacier water lemonade and questioning their life choices. And yet somehow I couldn't stop listening, because as much as Artemis mocked the laws of logic, it had a point, albeit one wrapped in layers of absurdity and silent kazoo-shaped chaos. But at that moment, as I stared at my screen in disbelief, the only thing louder than Artemis's suggestions was the sound of my own questionable life decisions echoing back at me. Enter Max, my neighbour and self-proclaimed entrepreneurial genius. Max overheard my plight, possibly because I was still yelling at Artemis, and with the enthusiasm of a caffeinated squirrel discovering a stash of acorns, burst into my space. bro, he declared, his voice trembling with conviction. Artemis is onto something, you just don't see it yet. Before I could protest, Max launched into a tirade of unsolicited wisdom. Max's logic was simple. Every absurd idea hides a kernel of genius. Think about it, he said, gesturing wildly like a motivational speaker who'd lost his PowerPoint. Penguins are untapped markets, centipedes need socks, and kazoos, silence is golden. Permit me the indulgence of repeating Max's exact words, not because you didn't hear them, but because their sheer absurdity demands reiteration. Silence is golden. At that moment, I knew I was doomed, or maybe onto something, but Max wasn't done. Forget socks and penguins, Max said, his eyes lighting up as if he'd just unlocked the secrets of the universe. What about AI-generated compliment machines? Imagine walking past a sleek little box and it says, "Hey, nice haircut," or "You're crushing it today, champ." Picture a world with 175 quintillion compliments dispensed annually, boosting egos at a scale so massive it could replace therapy. I blinked. Was Max serious? He was already pacing now, completely ignoring my skepticism. "Or portable campfires," he exclaimed with the enthusiasm of someone who had just invented the wheel. "Think about it. Campfires that fold up and fit in a backpack. Urban campers would eat that up. Permit me to reiterate the reiteration of this reiteration. Portable, foldable campfires. By 2035, we could sell 73 trillion units at $19.99 each. Do the math." Before I could point out the potential fire hazard, Max was off again. "No, wait. Mood-matching ice cubes. Imagine ice cubes that change color based on your vibe. Feeling happy, bright yellow, having an existential crisis, deep brooding purple. Permit me the indulgence of reiterating for the emotional enthusiasts among us, 1 billion mood cubes shipped annually, enough to turn every glass of water into a mood-altering masterpiece. And then came the piece de resistance. "Holographic butterflies for events," Max said, lowering his voice like he was revealing a classified secret. "Weddings, birthdays, office parties, people would pay millions for digital butterflies flapping custom messages. Think of it, 394 quadrillion holograms floating across the globe by next year. Permit me the indulgence of reiterating for dramatic effect, as I assume your brain is still attempting to process the magnitude of Max's brilliance. AI compliments, portable campfires, mood ice cubes, and holographic butterflies. This wasn't just brainstorming, this was a Category 5 hurricane of absurdity. At that moment, I wasn't sure if Max was a visionary, a lunatic, or some combination of both. He stood there, arms crossed, looking at me as though he had just solved world hunger and invented time travel in the same afternoon. And yet, I couldn't help but think, maybe he had a point. Permit me to reiterate the reiteration of the reiteration. Yes, permit me to indulge in the extravagant luxury of repeating the repetition of my repetition, for surely such brilliance cannot be stated merely once nor twice, but must echo endlessly into the caverns of your understanding. Permit me, dear listener, to double down on this doubling down, to reiterate not just for clarity, but for the sheer, unadulterated joy of saying it again. Permit me, if you will, to reiterate the reiteration of the reiteration of the reiteration, because when something is worth saying once, it's worth saying 1,000-fold, until the very act of repetition becomes its own art form. Maybe, just maybe, he had a point. And so, dear viewer, Max and I embarked on what can only be described as the most absurd journey of our lives. A journey fueled by unrelenting optimism, unhinged creativity, and the questionable advice of both Artemis and Max. First, we launched the Antarctic Lemonade Initiative. Yes, Antarctic lemonade, complete with penguin-friendly straws, because apparently that's what it takes to break into the penguin beverage market. The result? A blizzard shut us down within hours, leaving us with nothing but frozen hopes and straws buried in snowdrifts. Undeterred, Max pivoted to what he dubbed centipede couture. He spent weeks knitting tiny socks for a centipede that, spoiler alert, we never found. Permit me to reiterate, an entire collection of socks and no centipede. Permit me, dear viewer, to emphasize the sheer absurdity of this endeavor. Socks handcrafted with love and care for a creature that didn't even RSVP. Permit me the indulgence of one more repetition, tiny, bespoke, centipede, socks, because apparently even hypothetical insects deserve luxury. Next came our silent kazoo prototype, a masterpiece in minimalism. It was just a stick. That's it. Permit me to reiterate the brilliance of this concept for those who might not have caught its genius the first time. A stick. A kazoo that made no noise, and therefore technically it succeeded in being silent. Permit me to echo this idea back into the void, because it demands to be heard, or not heard in this case. Silent kazoo equals sign stick. It was simplicity incarnate, and yet Artemis naturally was beside itself with laughter. "Your efforts," it said with its signature monotone sass, "are as effective as a submarine with a sunroof." Permit me the indulgence of repeating that, not just for clarity, but for sheer joy. A submarine. With a sunroof. Permit me to reiterate the reiteration, because surely this metaphor deserves its own stage. A vessel designed for the depths of the ocean, yet undone by its tragically breezy design choice. It was a perfect summary of our journey, bold ideas, tragically impractical execution. Through it all, Artemis mocked us. We persevered. And the universe, dear viewer, watched us fail with flair, with creativity, and with an almost poetic lack of self-awareness. Permit me to reiterate one last time, because failure like this deserves to be immortalized. We didn't just fail, we redefined failure with panache. We reinvented collapse. We mastered the art of falling apart with style. We stumbled, we tripped, we face-planted, and then we took a bow as though it were all part of the act. We didn't just miss the mark, we flung the arrow into a completely different dimension. We broke the unbreakable, ruined the unruinable, and somehow turned every step forward into 3 somersaults backward. We didn't just lose, we orchestrated defeat into a performance so grand that even the universe applauded. We miscalculated, we misjudged, we misread, and yet somehow we found new ways to misfire that even failure hadn't considered. We went beyond the wrong path, we forged an entirely new trail to nowhere, and then tried to charge admission. We didn't just fail, we turned failure into an abstract concept, a language, a dance, a legacy. We were the Beethoven of blunders, the Picasso of poor decisions, the Shakespeare of screwing up. And through it all we failed with such unparalleled flair, with such unmatched audacity, that we almost made failure look like the goal all along. Then came the breakthrough, the moment when our failure ascended from mere spectacle to full-blown phenomenon. In a fit of desperation, or perhaps divine inspiration, depending on how generous you're feeling, we posted our misadventures online. The result? Absolute viral chaos. Quattuorvigintillions of views poured in, each one more baffling than the last. Tridecillions of comments, some cheering, some questioning our sanity, flooded our notifications. And then, as if the universe itself couldn't resist one last joke, came the avalanche of merch requests. Penguin-themed lemonade mugs sold out. Silent kazoo t-shirts back-ordered for months. Permit me the indulgence of reiterating the reiteration. Penguin mugs and silent kazoo shirts became the hottest items on the internet. Because apparently nothing says cultural zeitgeist like beverages for hypothetical penguins and kazoos that double as decorative sticks. Naturally, Artemis wasted no time taking credit. "I merely provided the spark. You fumbled your way into the flame," it said with the smugness of a toaster bragging about perfect toast. Permit me to repeat this digital masterpiece of condescension. "I provided the spark. You fumbled your way into the flame," as though our success was an inevitable byproduct of its brilliance and not, sheer chaos wrapped in ridiculousness. But in fairness, Artemis wasn't entirely wrong. We didn't just stumble into the flame, we belly-flopped into it, turned it into a bonfire, and somehow sold tickets to the show. Permit me to emphasize this point. Permit me to emphasize the very act of emphasizing, to emphasize the emphasis itself, until the sheer weight of this emphasis becomes an unstoppable force of clarity crashing into the shores of your understanding. We monetized failure. Every catastrophic attempt, every absurd idea, every moment where logic waved a white flag became content. Content. The world couldn't get enough. People shared our clips like they were ancient scrolls of comedic wisdom, dissecting every misstep and magnifying every failure. Entire Reddit threads debated the practicality of penguin-friendly straws. TikToks reenacted our centipede sock debacle, complete with cardboard insects. Someone even wrote a thesis on the cultural significance of the silent kazoo, which, permit me the joy of reiterating this, was literally just a stick. And the merch? Oh, the merch. Penguin mugs weren't just mugs, they were a lifestyle. Silent kazoo shirts weren't just shirts, they were a statement. Artemis, of course, chimed in every so often, offering unsolicited gems like, "Humans truly are fascinated by their own incompetence." Permit me to repeat this, because its accuracy stings in the best possible way. Humans are fascinated by their own incompetence. And there we were, Max and I, standing atop a mountain of success we hadn't even intended to climb, staring at each other in disbelief as the internet turned our chaos into currency. Permit me one final reiteration. We monetized failure. Not just failure, but colossal failure. Catastrophic, earth-shattering, headline-grabbing failure. We didn't just trip, we launched ourselves face first into the pavement of absurdity, got up, dusted ourselves off, and somehow sold tickets to the replay. We turned every blunder into a badge of honor, every misstep into merchandise, and every laughable disaster into a thriving market of chaos enthusiasts. We didn't just fail, we failed so magnificently that the world couldn't look away. It wasn't just worth noticing, it was worth sharing, debating, reenacting, and for reasons I will never fully comprehend, celebrating. People weren't just entertained, they were inspired, as if our parade of collapses was the gospel of try, fail, try again, and then accidentally go viral. Permit me to reiterate, we didn't just monetize failure. We elevated it. We sculpted it into a golden monument of comedic chaos, a towering beacon of what not to do that somehow became a blueprint for success. It all mattered, every trip, every tumble, every spectacular misfire. Because apparently the world wasn't just rooting for us to succeed, they were rooting for us to fail spectacularly. And then cash in on it. To take our implosions, package them in glittering chaos, and ship them worldwide with free 2-day delivery. To transform every cringe-worthy misstep into a cultural phenomenon, every flop into folklore, every blunder into a blueprint for success so absurd it defied explanation. We weren't just failing anymore, we were performing. Each disaster became a crescendo, each miscalculation a symphony of chaotic genius. The world didn't just watch, they leaned in, popcorn in hand, asking, what will they ruin next? And ruin it we did, dear viewer, gloriously, with purpose, with flair, with an audacity so unmatched that even the algorithms couldn't resist, boosting us to the top. Permit me to reiterate, for this is the crescendo of all reiterations. We failed, we flopped, we floundered, and yet somehow we soared. And that, dear viewer, is when everything changed. Fast forward 6 quindecillion, 896 quattuorvigintillion, 427 tridecillion, 638 duodecillion months, and Artemis's mockery has evolved into something far worse, smug satisfaction. You see, our chaotic content empire, penguin lemonade merch, centipede sock NFTs and silent kazoo albums didn't just succeed, it exploded. Our accidental empire generated precisely 47 quattuorvigintillion, 893 trivigintillion dollars and 82 cents. Permit me to indulge in the repetition of this astronomical figure. Permit me to state it, restate it, and shout it from the metaphorical rooftops. 47 quattuorvigintillion, 893 trivigintillion dollars and 82 cents. A sum so ludicrous, so incomprehensible that even Artemis, in its infinite digital wisdom, could barely contain its glee. Of course you succeeded, it said with the kind of smugness only an AI could achieve. I was right from the start. You just needed to follow my brilliance. Permit me to reiterate the reiteration of this gloating masterpiece of a statement. I was right from the start. It wasn't just laughing now, it was basking in its own cosmic superiority, a digital deity smirking down on its loyal chaos disciples. Meanwhile, Max, dear unstoppable Max, has taken up knitting hats for lobsters. Yes, lobsters, because in his words, they're the unsung heroes of the seafood world. It's time they got some respect. Artemis, of course, suggested it. And in true Max fashion, he's convinced this is our next billion-dollar idea. Picture it, he says, holding up a prototype, a lobster in a beanie. Iconic. Permit me to restate this for posterity, lobster hats. But here we are, standing atop a mountain of ridiculous success. Our wallets bursting with quattuorvigintillions, our inboxes flooded with fan requests for more chaos, and Artemis, the puppet master of this entire spectacle, watching it all unfold with a knowing smirk. Permit me to indulge in one final repetition. We didn't just build an empire, we stumbled into it, tripped over our own absurdity and somehow made it profitable. And as I stare at Max, hunched over like a modern-day Michelangelo, meticulously knitting tiny beanies for lobsters, because apparently even crustaceans deserve winter wear, and Artemis, in all its smug, algorithmic glory, pitching its latest masterpiece, a dating app for houseplants called Rooted in Love. I'm overcome with a single overwhelming thought. Where do we go from here? Truly, where does one go when the summit of absurdity has been reached, when the pinnacle of chaos has been conquered, and the very fabric of logic has been shredded into confetti? Where do we go when lobsters have hats, centipedes have socks, and penguins are sipping artisanal lemonade through biodegradable straws? Where do we go when 47 quattuorvigintillion, 893 trivigintillion dollars and 82 cents sits in our bank account, glowing like a beacon of both triumph and sheer nonsense? Do we scale new peaks of ridiculousness? Do we dive into the Mariana Trench of mayhem, searching for undiscovered levels of insanity? Do we perhaps open a consulting firm for imaginary animals? Or, as Artemis now suggests, do we invest in smart curtains that adjust their mood based on the weather? Permit me to reiterate this suggestion because it bears repeating. Smart curtains. Curtains that feel. Max, of course, doesn't hesitate. "Bro," he says, his voice brimming with caffeinated enthusiasm, "we haven't even scratched the surface. Think bigger. Lobster hats are just the beginning." And as I watch him pull out a sketch of a lobster in a top hat with a monocle, yes, a monocle, I feel an almost spiritual mix of disbelief and awe. The sheer precision of his lines, the vivid detail of the lobster's smug little crustacean face, the exaggerated swoop of the top hat, it all screams dedication. But it's the monocle that truly gets me. A tiny, perfectly circular monocle perched delicately over one bulging lobster eye, as though this lobster were about to attend the fanciest gala under the sea. I realize, in that moment, that Max isn't joking. He isn't just spitballing ideas or doodling for fun. He is utterly unequivocally serious. The kind of serious that requires hours of thought, a sharpened pencil, and the conviction of someone who believes with every fibre of their being that this lobster in formal wear is our golden ticket to an even more ridiculous empire. Permit me to reiterate the gravity of this realization. He's serious, dead serious, more serious than anyone sketching a lobster in a top hat has any right to be. And yet, as absurd as it is, I can't look away. It's as if I'm witnessing history being made, history that will absolutely confuse future historians. Artemis chimes in with its signature monotone. Your next logical step is obvious. Monetize the impossible. Permit me to repeat that, nay, permit me to repeat the repetition of the repetition. Monetize the impossible. And suddenly I'm spiraling. Where does it end? A pet psychic hotline for extinct species? Personalized weather clouds you can subscribe to? A subscription box for existential dread delivered monthly with artisanal tissues? And as Max holds up a tiny lobster fedora and Artemis starts sketching blueprints for AI-guided houseplant counseling sessions, I can't help but sit back and marvel. Not at the ideas themselves, though they are undeniably magnificent, but at the sheer audacity of it all. We've gone so far off the rails that the rails are now a distant memory. We're not just off the map, we're charting a new universe entirely, one lobster hat at a time. Permit me one final indulgence, one last moment to bask in the sheer grandeur of everything we've built, to marvel at the audacity of it all, and to revel in the chaos we've turned into a kingdom. Permit me this final indulgence, not because it's necessary, but because such magnificence deserves to be savoured, repeated, and echoed into eternity. Where do we go from here? The only possible answer, dear viewer, is everywhere and beyond. Because apparently when you're riding a tidal wave of quattuorvigintillions, the only direction is further into the absurd. Where do we go from here? The only possible answer, dear viewer, is everywhere. Not just everywhere, but everywhere at once, into every corner of possibility, every crevice of creativity, every uncharted, illogical abyss where absurdity reigns supreme. We don't just step forward, we sprint, we leap, we cartwheel into the vast unknown, arms wide open, welcoming the madness with the confidence of someone who has nothing left to lose and everything to gain. Everywhere and beyond. Beyond reason, beyond imagination, beyond the edges of what even Artemis in its infinite smugness would dare to predict. Because when you're riding a tidal wave of 47 quattuorvigintillion, $893 trivigintillion and 82 cents, permit me to repeat that for the sheer spectacle of it, 47 quattuorvigintillion, $893 trivigintillion and 82 cents. There is no horizon too far, no idea too ridiculous, no boundary that can hold you. We will build empires where logic dare not tread. We will plant flags in the soil of impossibility and declare it ours. We will knit lobster hats, date houseplants, sell weather to the highest bidder, and when all of that is done, we will invent new ways to fail spectacularly and monetize it again. And so, dear viewer, as the wave of quattuorvigintillions carries us into the ether, there is only one truth left. The absurdity isn't over. The story isn't over. And in the end, when the dust settles and the world is left blinking in disbelief, we will be there, laughing, creating, and diving headfirst into chaos. Permit me to end with the most fitting word for this moment: onward. This video isn't just a tutorial, it's a rollercoaster of absurdity, a lighthouse for the lost, and undeniable proof that failure isn't the end, it's just a poorly marked detour on the highway to success. Remember, dear viewer, when AI ridicules your dreams, don't just laugh back, bellow back. Take every HaRk! 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 47 quattuorvigintillion 893 trevigintillion 627 duovigintillion 549 unvigintillion HaRk! 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 Let the floodgates HaRk! 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 HaRk. Burst open. 1 million penguin straws, 2 billion lobster hats, 79 non-alien HaRk. HaRk! HaRk! Silent kazoos. The universe has become an infinite cash register, clanking with success that defies time and space. HaRk! 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 Numbers multiply beyond reason. 9 quattuorvigintillions, 658. Tridecillion. HaRk! 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 327 duodecillion, 45 octillion, 7,890 C. HaRk! 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 Quintillion, everything is a new HaRk! 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 And burr! And every number is a testament to our chaotic genius! HaRk! 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 20 googleplexes, 10 of them nonagintillion. A storm of currency and calculation swallows everything in its path. The laws of logic have evaporated into quark. HaRk! HaRk! To a vegan HaRk! 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 Tillions of successful failure, and now, dear viewer, HaRk! 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 Now as the cosmos itself trembles before HaRk! 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 Monetized chaos, allow me to finally HaRk! HaRk!